What's going on, guys? It's Pierre, also known as Visuals by Pierre. I'm a photographer and creator born and raised in New York City, and I'm here on the Unsigned podcast.
Pierre, man, appreciate you making the time. We've been trying to do this for a while. Schedule's been nuts. Lives have been nuts. The world has been nuts.
Lives have been nuts for sure.
Yeah, but here we are, man. And again, thank you for the time. As always, as I've been doing over the last couple of months, I like to start the interviews even before we jump into our background and what we're here for with the music stuff. I want to make sure that we're highlighting the Black Lives Matter movement and talking about those things that are important to us and important to the 100%. Culture. So yeah, man, just kind of want to start right there at the top. Like, what are your thoughts around everything that's been going on with the Black Lives Matter movement? I know you've been out doing a bunch of stuff in the city, going to protests, not only documenting them, but actually, partaking in them as well. So, what are your overall thoughts? Do you think the changes that we've seen so far will have, like a long-term impact, things like that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, what's been going on right now has been unprecedented, in my own lifetime, and I feel like even in the lifetimes of people who are older than us. I feel like the Black Lives Matter movement is something that's very important and very impactful, and we probably won't see the impact until like generations to come, because it's that much far ahead and that much for the future. I think this is like really important, and just being able to be out there at the protest and documenting and seeing it makes me actually really believe that there's something that's really happening and really going to really change. Yeah,
I agree. I think I can't remember what the exact numbers were, so don't quote me, but they were saying all the protests combined, there's just so many more millions of people than I think we're at the million man march.
I wouldn't doubt that at all.
Yeah, and it was just like, this is unprecedented. It's just so much bigger than that moment, and that was like the biggest moment in civil rights history.
Exactly.
I was like, no, 50 years later. So it's kind of it's bittersweet that we're still dealing with that. At the same time, it shows that like there is there are a lot of people that do care about
it's more awareness and a little bit more solidarity, I think. Yeah.
So who do you think, are some of the brands or the people that have like done a great job to like really show up and like show out?
I really wouldn't go up by the brands per se, but I just feel like individuals, like people who are like really out there on like the front lines and who are organizing and helping bring awareness, have been the people who I feel like has done the greatest for the cause and whatnot. Those who are even behind the scenes, who are maybe working at some of these brands, who are like, pushing the envelope, at these companies and stuff like that. I feel like they're the ones who are, really leading the charge and making the biggest impact. So I couldn't really say like a particular entity or brand per se, but more so just like the everyday individual who decides like on a Saturday, like this is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to go get up and go to this protest, or I'm going to go and I'm going to educate somebody, or I'm going to go and see how we can support, all these different movements and help get the message out there.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think there's been brands that are coming out and that are trying to do the right thing, and it's still like early days, but like you said, all the people that actually work there that you don't know about, there's a lot of those people that are partaking in it. So hopefully those things eventually get further embedded into those brands, so that like the brands start to speak up, and those conversations that are happening internally really spill over into like, those brands are forced to talk about it.
Exactly. And we won't really know really, like I said, like with the impact, we won't really know like in the immediate, like 2 months, 3 months, it's going to be like at least another 4 or 5 years from now when we see like who's really about that and who's just giving us lip service.
Yeah. Because one thing to say it when it's like
when it's prominent, exactly.
When it's popping, and it's another thing to actually carry it out.
Exactly.
That's kind of, just to touch on this final point too, like I think that's what the NBA has done a great job of. The Bucks decided not to play. I don't want to say boycott, because I don't think that's the right word to use for it. But they keep saying
boycott, but I don't think the term is actually boycott. I think it's like was it like a strike or like because they're
There
not
was another, what they call it. Yeah, they called it like a
because they're not giving their
fast strike, quick
services.
strike, or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's something like that. Yeah,
I'm drawing a blank on that term, but
actual
yes.
term. Yeah.
But other people have been saying boycott too, and it's just
Hmm.
not right because they're just, I saw Clinton Yates, who writes for
Hmm.
ESPN. He was
Hmm.
just talking about it's almost like bereavement, to be
Yeah.
honest. You know what I mean? Like they just needed a couple of days to like deal with this, especially them because it was happening in their state
Yeah.
specifically, and it was like
Hmm.
so close to home. I think what they've done and like they're continuing the conversation. It was like, at the beginning of the restart, it was, a big thing that we're talking about. Black
Right.
Lives Matter. The NBA
Hmm.
needs to do all this. The league's going to do X, Y, and Z. But for
Exactly.
it to happen again, the
Right.
Bucks are like, no. And then you saw the fucking impact across sports. It was like all the other leagues shut down and were like, no,
Yes.
okay, they were forced to follow suit, which
Right.
again puts the conversation back at the
Back at
front
the
of the table
forefront.
and
Hmm.
right and forcing us to deal with this. So curious your thoughts on how they have dealt with
Yeah.
the NBA and yeah.
No, yeah, I think like them taking that stance was like, like I said, unprecedented things that are happening, all because of, this movement and whatnot. So like them even saying that they wouldn't play and then other NBA teams following suit is just like, whoa, like this is not just like lip service. This is something that's going to really, really impact and change the way people move on going forward. I think a lot of people knew in 2020, even like before the pandemic, that, things were going to never be the same in a sense, right? And it's really showing that because before it was nothing for like a single athlete to step up and say like this is wrong, but for have like a whole team and in a whole and across different leagues as well, you know what I'm saying? Like this is something that's just really, really huge. And I mean, I commend the guys that that are
Yeah.
playing for the NBA right now.
Yeah, man, for real. And then I love in the beginning, it was like, kind of what did I get them not wanting to play, but
Hmm.
like, what is the game plan going for? It was just kind of a confusing time. You're like, what are you going to do? So
It
I'm
was,
glad
and
that they took a couple of days to figure that out. And then they
yeah,
actually came up with like
some kind of
LeBron
plan.
spoke with, right. They're like, hey, they
Yeah,
have those 3 initiatives that they're really trying to hit on. And I
right.
thought that was good because it's like, now there's actionable items on that.
Exactly. And not for nothing, like a lot of times people always expect people to come up with all these answers the
Right.
minute they do something. I was like, bro, like
Yes.
the man just was killed like a few days ago. They decided not to like there really isn't that much time to
There's not
organize
enough
and get people
time.
on the same
Yeah.
page. But these people want to do something action, like, and do it right now. So like I get it. I don't expect people
Yeah.
to always have the answer right out the gate. I just expect people to like be transparent and letting people know that they're trying to find the answer,
Hey, as long as they're trying and they're trying to do the right thing and they're being open, just like you said, they're transparent about it. It's like that's all we can
Exactly.
ask
So
for them.
I wasn't mad at them at all. I'm just like, listen,
Yeah, I
take some
get it.
time to figure it
It's a
out
fucking
and figure it
lot.
out. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not
Yeah.
I mean, I love the NBA. Like I've been trying to keep up with all the games and whatnot, but I'm also like there's just way more important things at hand, and I'm not tripping on them not playing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
and look at that. Like they're back playing again. What today or they played yesterday? Like,
Yesterday
yeah,
they
yesterday.
started up again.
So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, all right, man. Appreciate you jumping into that. Like I said, I want to make
Nah,
sure that we're keeping that
100%.
top of mind. But yeah, man. Well, let's jump into kind of yourself and we'll talk about your work and kind of how it intertwines with music and media and all those good things.
Right.
But let's start at the top too. I mean, you and I we were neighbors up in
Yes.
Harlem for a while, and
Facts.
yeah, and we got some other mutual friends outside of that too.
Yeah.
We've done a little bit of work together. But yeah, for those that don't know, tell us a little bit of the backstory. You're from Queens originally, but
Yes.
yeah, tell us a little bit of everything.
Well, yeah, I'm from Far Rockaway, Queens, also known as the sixth borough to some people in the city, because we're so far out, what I'm saying? Last stop on the A train. Like,
Oh yeah,
that's just where I was born
yeah.
and raised.
The
What I'm
beaches,
saying?
man, the beaches.
Yeah, the beaches is great. I mean, even now, like, I think a lot of people are moving out there again, too, like, just for the waves and whatnot. You see a lot of surfers now getting off at stops that you never saw people get off at before. So, I mean, that's been very interesting. But yeah, I was like, born and raised there to, immigrant parents from Haiti. I'm like the last of like 6 siblings. So like I was like the baby growing up. So
yeah,
that was very interesting. I feel that's probably why I'm very like social and very like able to like share space with people because I'm just like, yeah, I grew up with like
around so many people.
So many people. So like people people are definitely like a whole true. I hold people close to me, you know.
Definitely.
I got into photography like a few years after graduating from college. I went to St. John's University for TV and film.
Nice.
And then I got into photography, kind of stumbled into it. I got like a DSLR camera to shoot like video for, and then I was like, hey, I could shoot photos with this. Let me just pick up photos. So I'm pretty much self-taught in photography, you know. And then from photography, I did that. I got into photography full-time around 2013. I was let go from a job that I was working. And so I was just like, you know what? It's time for me to just do this full time, like figure it out.
Yeah.
It's like one of those figure it out moments. I had like
Yep.
an epiphany around that time. And I'm just like, listen, nothing that you want in life is going to come easy. And sometimes you actually have to downgrade in order to upgrade. And so like, you know, I went from having like, you know, a salary every year to like not knowing when my next payment was
I'm
going to
gonna do
come
this.
in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like have to chase people, clients for like bread and whatnot. And I was just doing the hustle, you know. You know, eventually like things started to pick up. Social media was a big proponent in, you know, my career as well, along with people along the way who helped supporting me and hired me. And then, you know, I started to get like some good like brand deals and some good clients, and kind of build my career off of that. So now 7 years, fast forward 7 years now that I've been doing this full time. It's been really dope. It's been a blessing, and I'm just like happy I could just create in order to like sustain my life. You know what I'm saying? So like
Yeah.
that at the very least is like I consider a big success for myself.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So just like you mentioned, you've been able to work with a ton of big brands,
Yeah.
you know, like Puma, Adidas,
Mm-hmm.
Under Armour, just to name a few. But
Yeah.
you know, out of every major project that you've worked on, small projects too, you know,
Yeah.
which campaign do you think that you've been a part of has, you know, had the greatest impact, and
Yeah.
why?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because after much thought, like I just knew immediately the first thing that I would want to reference was our Goodbye Summer campaign that we did last summer.
Yep.
By Creative House, Finally Offline. We partnered up with our good friend and creator, Javi, who has his company called Gusto 35. They make custom 35 millimeter film. And then we're able to partner with Adidas as well, and to bring out this thing called Goodbye Summer. And we're able to give 1,000 rolls of film to people in New York and LA. And so we took their photos of them documenting their summer. We had a full-on photography gallery. We featured 6 creators, 3 in LA, 3 in New York, to discuss like how summer influences their creative process. And then we're able to have like these day in the life silhouettes around these people, give the community film to create. And then what we took with all the content is that we created a photo gallery at the end of the summer. We did one at Beyond the Streets in New York, which is like a huge traveling art exhibition. And then we also did like a house party in LA that had everyone's photos hanging up around this dope house in the hills. It was like really one of the most rewarding projects that I ever worked on, because we had so many people who have never taken the photos like seriously, and then we had people who were using film for the first time on top of that. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like, you know, you and I grew up in a generation like earlier on where we were kids. We had film cameras, right?
Yeah.
But like you have like a whole generation of people who like film wasn't like, they weren't raised with film, you know,
Yeah.
or know how to shoot film, and now they were all using it, and they were capturing some of the most amazing images that I've ever seen as well. So I think that was like one of the biggest campaigns and had the greatest impact for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's dope, man. I loved seeing you guys do that, because just like you said, the film piece, and I've actually been thinking about this a lot lately too, like the film piece, as opposed to digital, just makes you focus more on what the subject is. You can't
Exactly.
waste that shit.
You
You
can't
only
waste
get
it.
so many. So
It
it's
costs.
like, are you
So
going to
it's like,
set it up? So you really got to think about what is the subject? What am I trying to convey?
yes.
I think that's a great segue into kind of the next segment of questions here. We'll just start right here. Like,
Word.
how important is creating a story with photos? I mean, I think, especially for artists that are just starting out, talking about the musical artists for a second too.
Yeah.
I think they may think of it a little passively, because they're like, yeah, I just need cool pictures for Instagram.
Yeah. From my,
But and yeah, you want it to be visually appealing, but tell me a little bit more about like how important it is to create a story with the photos that you're taking.
I think it's really important to create stories around photos. It just makes them more meaningful, right? So if you think about the cliche term, right, a photo's worth 1,000 words. What are you saying? What are you saying with those 1,000 words right there? You know what I'm saying? When you take this, when you click the shutter button, you know, you're saying 1,000 words right there. Like, what is it that you want to say with this photo? And I think if you take the time to like really like pause and give it some like deep thought, that you can actually capture images that will resonate not only with you but with a whole lot more people. Because I think I look at photography as communicating, and people who get to see your photographs are interpreting what you shot, and they're getting something feedback from it. They're getting like they're absorbing something from it, and you want to make sure what they're absorbing is something that you actually have some thought and intent behind. So I think it's really important.
Yeah, because I mean, we live in the world where like photography is almost taken for granted because everyone has a camera in their pocket at all times, right? So people tend to take a lot of bad pictures, right? There's a lot of like, you know, amateur photographers, which has its pluses and minuses, right? Because number one, it gets you into, it's like the segue into like you learning how to do it. But, you know, taking that a step further, you know, how should artists be reviewing their work if they do plan to take their own photos? So again, talking about musical artists, some people, they want to be the creative directors themselves. They want to take the photos. Sometimes they want to work with other people, but if they want to take their own photos and creative direct their projects, how do they make sure that they're, you know, putting their best foot forward? How should they be reviewing their work? What are some of the things that you do when you're kind of setting yourself up for, you know, a shoot for a campaign?
Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to tell you like right now, I'm very like, I always used to be a very organized chaos person. You know what I'm saying? Like my thought process were like literally all jumbled in my head. And then like I had the vision and I knew what I wanted. And then I knew how to execute it because I was very like a DIY person, right? I was doing literally everything myself, from freelancing work and whatnot. And then when I started like working with teams of people, that's when I understood how important it is to be able to convey all the shit that's in your head and being able to present it to people who don't live in your head, right? Everyone lives outside of their own place. So like, how am I going to be able to effectively communicate these thoughts and ideas to the people who I'm working with? And so so from then on, I just learned how to create creative decks, right? And like mood boards and whatnot. So then I would just like really like literally write out my thought process and be like, listen, this is what I'm thinking about here. This, and this. These are the images that I've come across through my research that I feel can convey this message and these feels and whatnot, whether it's lighting, whether it's composition, whether it's backgrounds. Like I'm taking all of these things into consideration out loud, right? Like, so they're already in my head, you know, but how do I put it down and communicate it to people? And that's kind of what my thought process was. So like, I'm really like breaking the final product that I have in my head down to the smallest inkling so that people can see steps 1 through 10 and know like the progression and know what I want to get at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's super important too, because you're going to have to work with other people. Yeah. That's just like any artist, you can start to do some of the stuff yourself, but
especially if you want to scale.
Right. There's somebody that's going to, and especially if you are working on music too, if like music is your focal point,
100%.
You want to be involved in the arts, like there's going to be a better lighting person than you. There's going to be a better, you know, camera operator than you. All those things. And so you need to know how to like articulate your thoughts to guide it. You can still lead it, but like you need to, you need to bring other people in, because eventually you can't do everything yourself.
You can't do everything yourself.
Yeah. And I think just like you said, breaking down the decks, that's something that a lot of young people don't necessarily know. And I think that's such a great piece of advice. It's like in a deck, for anybody that's wondering what that term is, you know, it's just a straight up like Google Slides presentation. Like what images do you want to use? What are you trying, PowerPoint, what are you trying to convey? And so that way, again, you're articulating your thoughts so other people can jump in and provide feedback.
Exactly.
And I think it helps you yourself too. Just like you mentioned, you put your thoughts down, you kind of see like, oh shit, does this make sense or is this whack?
Yes, exactly. And that's another thing that I'm glad you brought that up, because like, I mean, even after I made these decks to communicate with other people, like if I have a personal project now that I'm going to execute myself, I still make one. Like, and I feel like it helps my process, because then I get to organize all the craziness that's inside my head. I'm organizing it all like step by step. And then I find like I'm able to attack the project more efficiently, more strategically, And I feel like the overall end product is way better.
Yeah, you're saving time,
Yep.
money, and
Hmm.
you're making the product better.
Exactly.
It's like all those things in
Yeah.
one. It's
And
just
it just
taking a
takes,
little bit of time. Just a
yeah,
little
there's a
bit of
little bit
time
of
in the
time
beginning.
in the beginning. Yep.
Because
Yeah.
if you
Which
don't,
is,
you're just going to.
which funny enough, when I went to school for TV and film, I was learning about, doing pre-production, production, and then
Yeah.
post. That was always the system. But my ass, I was like very much like, I'm super like production, like just go, let's go shoot it, just go, 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 go. And then, like after like knowing how to have more things on my plate, I'm like, all right, I can't just go straight into production half-assed and just going off of what's in my head. I could be way more tactical and impactful with what I'm trying to do if I just take those 2 seconds out in the beginning of a project and really like plan it out and map it out.
Yep. It's almost just like you said before, like, kind of downgrading to upgrade.
Yes.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
you're up here, you have this energy. Well, you got to just step
Bring it
back,
down a
take
little
some
bit.
time. Yep.
Yeah.
And then you can come back and then you can fill in those gaps. Like, what am I good at? What am I not good at? Who do I need to bring into this project? Can I do this on my own? Can I afford it on my own? All those questions will pop up if you start to write it all out.
Okay. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So now I kind of want to talk about for a second, just if like a musical artist wants to take on being their own, photographer and doing a lot of their work themselves and just kind of getting a little nitty gritty for a second, but like what sort of apps on, a phone would you recommend that like people that are just coming up to use, like anything for editing, what if they want to purchase a camera, what's a great starter kit?
Mm-hmm.
If they do want to go like the professional software route and something on their computer, like what are the best, pieces of software they can use? Kind of break down some of those nitty gritty things that, a photographer would need.
Okay, word. So like, I mean, if you're coming into this out the gate, not knowing anything and starting anything, I would just say if you have your phone with a camera, start out with that. Back when I was still starting doing photography, but more so in the beginning of my career, oftentimes we would have like meetups and whatnot of other photographers from all different places, and you'd be surprised. A lot of those shooters that you followed on the Instagram, so their accounts, a lot of them were shooting with their iPhone. Like they weren't your quote unquote technical photographer. They didn't know like shutter speed or any other stuff like that, but they could compose an image that was like so amazing, and they did it straight up with the iPhone. And now, since over the past 10 years, the iPhone is so crazy right now that like you literally take some of the most striking images with your camera phone. So I would definitely say start out with that and just learn like stuff like composition, even with like using the editing software on your phone, like knowing how to adjust like exposure, contrast, just those basic ones first. And then we could upgrade to like what the next set of tools could be, because I feel as though like, as long as you master those things that come from within, like your eye and knowing what you like, I think you could put anything in your hands and then you're going to create some goal with it.
Right.
If you're coming out the gate, I would definitely start with it. Yeah.
That's a good point. So yeah, like I guess the best way forward there would be like use your phone and then just Google like composition, like how to set up or what is exposure, what does that mean, so they can kind of get a little bit of insight into each one of those features.
And I think it's also,
and then fucking around with it.
And I also think a important thing for people is to understand what it is they want to shoot, like what is that they really enjoy shooting, like because photography is like a broad spectrum of topics, subjects, styles. So like find out what it is that you enjoy first, and then you can like just kind of focus on it, whether it's like now know what person to study, like what old photographers and styles that you can study and learn from, and then you can actually like target more so what towards your goal is. And even if you're somebody like me who's like, I like all types of different kinds of photography, then you can know like, okay, I'm going to study for fashion. I'm going to study these people. For lifestyle, I'm going to study for these people. If I want to do street, I know I want to study this guy. And, but you need to just really like know and identify what it is that you want and what you love and what you genuinely want to shoot.
So true. Yeah. And I was going to say, I think that goes right back to what we were talking about, like the stories of that. And then it goes back to like if you are a musical artist, like the music you're creating, like what are you saying in your music? How can you pull those themes out to put an image up and also convey that, because
Right.
maybe that's the way that somebody becomes a fan. I remember
Mm-hmm.
like during the blog era, a
Mm-hmm.
big thing was like, okay, what's the album artwork like?
Yeah.
This image that I'm looking at, like
Mm-hmm.
and I think that thought process has just evolved over time, over the internet. Now that Instagram is such a big thing, like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, we want to see the cool image, and that's got to make sense, and that's got to catch our eye, but then what the fuck does that mean is
What does
what's
it
going to
mean?
keep me. That's what's going to like really get me
Mm-hmm.
to like then go to Apple Music and find that artist and then play
Exactly. I
their
feel like
music and then
the consumer is now, especially and I mean, when I say consumer, I don't necessarily just mean somebody who's going to buy a product, but people who are buying into your lifestyle or your
yeah,
social or whatever like that. They're way more smarter. They're way more educated. They want something more robust. They're not just looking for surface level stuff anymore. So it's like you really have to, if you're going to put out a song with some visuals and stuff like that, like it really just can't be the most. It could look quote unquote basic, but if it has something deeper behind it, then people will resonate with it and people will stick with it. And the same thing goes for music and with photography.
yeah.
I often compare the two a lot of times in like the thought process and the creation process. And a lot of things that I've learned just by like shooting music or being around music, I actually take and I practice and I put into photography.
Yeah. Yeah, they're so close.
Mm-hmm.
They're so close. And that's again one of the other reasons I wanted to have you on is like
Mm-hmm.
it just makes so much sense. These things are just
Yeah.
married, you know.
Yeah. Low key. And and this should like just so I don't just say like for people
Yeah.
just to use their phone and edit on their phone app. If you really want like some actual like photos, if you have the budget to go out and shoot and buy a camera and whatnot, I would definitely look at some Sony cameras. Their A series, their Sony is the A3000, like those like
Okay.
small point and shoot cameras are
Yeah,
really
yeah.
really powerful, and like you don't have to worry about carrying a big ass DSLR everywhere you go, especially if you're like just trying to if you're a hobbyist looking to get into pro. Like I would definitely look at those. When it comes to actual DSLR stuff, I would definitely look at their A7. Sony has the A7 stuff. Fujifilm also has like the XT100. They're like that one is a crop sensor, but it's still really good. And also, when it comes to editing photos, software-wise, I mean, like I feel like most people's entry level into editing software is usually like through Lightroom, Adobe Lightroom, and you can get that if you get the Creative Cloud. It's like a monthly subscription, but you could get that, or you can
Something like
find it hacked.
$10 a month or something like
Yeah. And then it has like damn near like all the tools that you can really need when it comes to like post processing. So I
right.
definitely look into Adobe Lightroom. And if you're even if you don't want to commit to that, they have a mobile version that you can download on your phone and edit on. And I use it all the
Perfect.
time.
There you go.
So
There you
I
go.
would say
That's
like start
super
out with that.
convenient.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
good. It's good money.
absolutely. Word. Well, just a couple quick questions here
Mm-hmm.
before you get out. But any sort of trends that you're seeing in photography,
Mm-hmm.
coming out?
Yeah.
I know black and white, kind of the monochromatic stuff is
Mm-hmm.
always, it ebbs and
Yeah, it's
flows, and when
classic.
that's in and when it's
Exactly.
out, it's classic. So I know a lot of people are rocking that. Anything else that you think is really standing out to you? And I
I
know
think
this is a
right
super
now,
vague question too, by the way.
yeah, no, when I definitely feel as though as far as like trends go, and I think it's a great trend actually, is that you're seeing more black faces as the subjects in
Yeah,
photography. You know, right now a lot of like black photographers are getting a lot more recognition now, which I think is really great. And you know, a lot of these I guess it's mostly in fashion as well, like you don't see that many black faces when it comes to like editorial and whatnot, and like, you're seeing more and more of that come up to the forefront. I think that's really really amazing, as well as just black stock photography. Like you would be surprised at how like rare it is to find like stock photography to use for a creative deck, right? Like, okay, I want to show like a family playing soccer and whatnot, and then you might look online for photos and you can't really find a black family playing soccer. Like it's not really there.
Jesus.
But thankfully, to people like Joshua Kissy, who's another photographer based out in New York, he has a company called Tonal, and they're like a stock photography site that shows a lot of like black face and black companies and whatnot.
Awesome.
So it's really really dope, and I'm glad that there's more people just capturing that stuff.
That's so ill. That's
Yeah.
so Oh, it's amazing. And something for, again, for like artists that are out there looking to create their own stuff. That's a great resource, great inspiration tool.
Exactly.
And like, if you do need some album artwork and you're not shooting stuff, like definitely check those guys
Take those
out. You know what I
resources.
mean?
Yeah. It's a
Yeah,
good resource.
that's amazing. That's
Mhm.
amazing. Cool, man. So got a couple of, I like to call this the plugging session.
All right.
But yeah, man. So what are you working on that you're super excited about? Where can people contact you? And
Oh
then
man.
I got my final Jesus Samero question too. What would
Okay.
the name of your personal playlist be?
B. Okay, word. I guess for the plug moment, I just want to plug Finally Offline, which is our creative collective. We're just like a big ass think tank. Honestly, we just come up with ideas. We generate ideas for tons of different people. We do strategy, execution, the whole nine, right? So plug them up, and we're working with a ton of different companies right now, which I can't really divulge too much into just now, but just be on the lookout that we're going to be dropping something really, really amazing very, very soon. We're also working on a merch line as well, like a golf influenced merch line.
Oh yeah.
So I definitely want to put that out there on people's radar. Um, as far as like my personal playlist, I actually have a playlist that I actually started, funny
Yeah,
enough.
there you
Yeah.
go.
So I started this playlist called Lightroom and Chill. It's like a playlist that I have on
Yeah.
Spotify right now. And I update it weekly, every Sunday. And I just have like a list of tracks that I've been listening to that week that I've been creating to, whether I'm like
Yeah.
editing or I'm shooting to, or, just like I'll go for a creative walk and I'll just be listening to these songs. So I decided
Yeah.
to just share them with people so they can just check out. So if you want to, just check
Yo.
out Lightroom and Chill.
Yeah, love
Spotify
it,
actually
man.
tight.
That's dope, man. And
Yeah.
where can people find you on Instagram as well?
Oh yeah. My Instagram, pretty much all my socials are like Visuals by Pierre, fully spelled out. Yeah, so you can just find me on there. I'm on Instagram. I'm on most of the social platforms.
There you
Yeah.
go.
So
There
yeah,
you go.
I'll be there.
All right, man. Well, hey, I appreciate the time once again. Glad we could make this happen.
Nah,
And
likewise, man.
yes,
This is
super
fun.
super insightful talk, man.
Nah, I'm glad. And if anybody out there interested in photography and needs advice or anything, I'm a DM away. Like I literally respond to like almost
Yep,
all my DMs.
and yeah, seriously, I mean that's
Hmm.
originally how we got up too. Like
Yeah.
I remember you posted a picture that was like
Hmm.
on my block, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, man, what's up? Been a fan for a minute." As
Right.
soon as you're like on my block, you want to grab a beer at the
Yeah.
spot, and you were like,
I was like,
"Hey,
yeah,
man, yeah, let's
let's
go."
do it. Exactly. Like
And then we
it
ended up
really is
knowing a
that
bunch of
simple.
it really is. And then we ended up knowing a bunch of the same people, and we're like, "Oh shit!"
Exactly.
It's so
Exactly.
small world, small
Nah,
world.
it is. It's
But yeah,
fire.
man, glad to hear things are going well. Glad to hear you're safe.
Likewise.
City's still
Likewise.
treating you well. It's as normal as it can be.
Mhm.
And yeah, man, appreciate the time.
Likewise, man. Give kisses to the whole family for me. And
Definitely,
I
bro.
hope to see you next time you come down to the city.
Absolutely, man. I mean, you could be my first call. I'll be like, yo, let's get up. We gotta go shoot some
Facts.
shit.
All right, let's get it.
All right,
All
man.
right,
We'll talk
Murph.
soon.
Appreciate you.
All
Peace.
right, man. Thanks. Peace.